Hey fam, my name is Gabi Koyenov. I am a licensed therapist, and recently I have been watching lots of useless political videos, lots of clickbait, and my algorithm just continues to show this to me. It's been very frustrating for me personally. And, I look at this as an opportunity to vent. None of this is really psychologically based or like therapy based. It's truly just like my opinions as a layman politically. It will be therapeutic for me to vent some of this out, and I hope that you will find it valuable as well. I did a previous video already on Candace Owens, and that was very therapeutic. I actually did one on this video already and posted it, but there were a lot of things that I said in there that I didn't really like. I realized that I needed to be stronger with some of my words, and maybe some of it sounded like I was, I don't know, placating to Tucker a little bit. And this is the thing: I want to walk a very fine, nuanced line where I'm representing this person well, and at the same time giving valid critiques that everyone could understand. So I realized that the last time that I did this, it was a little too soft, a little too not really getting the full point across. I hope to be a little firmer here. I still might not get to my goal, but I've been watching other people's reaction videos, and I think that I have a better hang on how to do this now. So maybe more on that later. But we're going to get into this video with Tucker Carlson. For a little context on me, I would consider myself centrist or really apolitical. I have lots of thoughts on different political issues, but I find that, it's often very nuanced, and my opinions don't depend on political alliance, you know what I mean, or the color of what party you're at. I find that to be very immature and kind of stupid. That being said, typically speaking, political parties like stand for certain values that very often, you might align with because you agree with those values most of the time. But truth be told, I think a lot of people just kind of blindly do that when they pick a political party. They're not necessarily thinking about the nuance. I think that, even in this video, actually, Tucker is going to make some points that a lot of Democrats will agree with. But by the fact that it's coming from Tucker Carlson, nobody's going to want to agree with it. And, that's going to be part of a cultural critique that I'm going to probably speak about as we move along with this video. But where I see Tucker Carlson is he is very far right. He's doing this at a Charlie Kirk conference. Charlie Kirk, I would consider pretty like right wing, pretty far right, more grounded than Tucker though. I think that there's this we used to have this fear of the woke mind virus, that a lot of Republicans talked about, the woke mind virus, right? Like, oh my God, these illogical young liberals that are, I don't know, ruining America or whatever. And ruining their minds. There is an opposite of that, which Tucker most certainly falls into. You know what I mean? And I think he does it maliciously, where he knows that what he's doing is probably wrong and illogical, and he does it to I don't know, create a fan base, to say things that he thinks he knows people are going to agree with. On the other hand, maybe he totally is kind of delusional. We're going to get into some of these points, but that's just for you to see where my biases are when I get into talking about Tucker Carlson. Not to say that he doesn't have good ideas or that he's wrong, but I think a lot of them are unbased, and we're going to get into it. So I skipped ahead a little bit of the intro. We're going to get into Tucker's first point.
So I notice everyone's been talking about Epstein tonight, and I want to kind of differ from the crowd a little bit in saying that I watched Ben Shapiro yesterday, and now, before you boo me, I thought he made a really solid point. He's like, it happened a long time ago. Who cares? And by the way, we should trust the government.
I'm just going to pause. Ben Shapiro, I haven't listened to what he said about Jeffrey Epstein, and I have been going down the Jeffrey Epstein rabbit hole, and honestly, it's extremely, extremely concerning. Our current president, he campaigned on the fact that he's going to release information about Epstein and then hasn't. Obviously, that's a serious issue. I would assume Epstein files exist. I don't know if they do. I would assume they do. And it's extremely, extremely concerning. The American public deserves more, right? This is a extremely powerful person, very wealthy, that's been connected with extremely powerful people on all sorts of high levels of government. I think primarily in the United States and all over the world, right? This guy is been doing terrible things and been getting away with it for years and years and years, right? It's known. We deserve better, right? So that's what I think I'm going to say first on Epstein. Extremely concerning. We don't know what's going on. We deserve to know more. Also, I'm going to speed this up just a drop because I find that he talks a little slow. I talk probably a bit faster than him. And also, we're probably going to be skipping around a little bit and addressing certain points as they come along.
And whatever the bureaucrats tell us, and by the way, it's wrong to ask a lot of unauthorized questions. So I just want to go on the record to say I think that's absurd. And
again, I don't know what Ben Shapiro said on this. I would imagine Tucker is mischaracterizing what Ben's saying. I think maybe what Ben is saying, like, let's not jump to conspiracy theories about Jeffrey Epstein. I haven't listened to him, but I doubt that he would be saying, like, forget Epstein, happened a long time ago. That probably is not what he said.
And it's exactly the kind of thinking that I personally voted against in the last election. In the last election, I spent a lot of the month of October campaigning with and for the president. I voted for the president. I never voted for.
Okay, so again, it's just extremely concerning, right? Like, we don't have information on Epstein. We don't know what happened. Tucker, I would argue is anti-Semitic, and I'm just going to kind of skip along here where he talks about Epstein's ties to Israel. Let's go here and we'll address those points.
On behalf of Intel Services, I'm not going to put up with that answer. I don't care who gives that answer. That is not acceptable. And I think the real answer is Jeffrey Epstein was working on behalf of Intel Services, probably not American.
Okay, so this is, really the first conspiracy theory that we have to tackle. Tucker doesn't know what the heck he's talking about, right? Like, he claims to be a journalist. He's not a journalist. He's a storyteller, right? And this idea of Epstein being a foreign problem, right? Like, and he's going to blame Israel. He's going to say probably Israeli, right? Why can't we ask questions? Look, I'm sure the government, American government in the form of whatever intelligence agencies they have, and the Israeli government in the form of Mossad, I'm sure that they have tons of conspiracies that they're doing, that they're like pulling the wool over our eyes in many, many, many things. These people listening to Tucker Carlson, sitting wherever they're sitting, eating up his conspiracy theories, they're not figuring it out. Tucker is not figuring it out sitting in his mansion. We're going to go on as he kind of explains this. Look, it's obviously concerning. There's obviously circumstantial evidence pointing Epstein in many different directions, right? Like, maybe he's American, maybe he's intelligence, maybe he's Israeli intelligence. We don't know. That is part of the problem. We don't know, right? And it's fine to ask. It's fine to be curious and investigate and figure it out. But the problem is that these intelligence agencies are not going to give you an answer. They're meant to hide things from the public by default, right? Like, you're not going to find Mossad's... Like, what's going to prove to you that Epstein is not working for an Israeli intelligence in the form of Mossad or otherwise? I guarantee you that if the Mossad today opened up all their files to everybody and conclusively proved that Jeffrey Epstein was not working for them at all, right? Like, these people will just latch on to, okay, well, then it's different Israeli intelligence. And then, what would eventually make people realize that, like, okay, Epstein is not working under Israeli intelligence or American intelligence? Because it's very possible that, given all the evidence that we have, it's very possible that Epstein wasn't an intelligence asset at all. Maybe all these claims about Epstein being intelligence are falsified for whatever reason. Maybe it might seem that way and it isn't, right? Like, one very famous one is like this attorney general or whatever made a claim one time that Epstein was an intelligence asset, meaning likely American, if anything. That could easily be just excused in the sense that, like, Epstein had very powerful friends, right? And so maybe he asked for a favor, and that was the most convenient lie to get him out of trouble, right? Like, it's very possible, given the evidence that we do have, it's very possible that it would conclude opposite of what Tucker is preaching. So when Tucker ends up saying that this is an Israeli problem, what he's doing is highly and extremely anti-Semitic. We're going to go on because maybe I'm jumping the gun a little bit. I want to demonstrate these points. But, like, it's highly and extremely anti-Semitic. Tucker's not an idiot, right? First of all, a few things. Israel and the Jews are somewhat synonymous, right? It doesn't mean that, like, anyone who hates Israel is automatically anti-Semitic. It's not. I'm not saying that. But what is true is that in a lot of people's minds, Israel and Jewish people are synonymous. It's like a term for, like, Israel, Zionists, Jews, it all gets mumbled together. And so being anti-Israel for many people is inexcusable. It's a sublimated anti-Semitism. That being said, you don't have to love the state of Israel. You don't have to agree that everything Israel does is fine and dandy. Like, obviously, like, rational people have criticism for the state of Israel. It's not a perfect state. It's a regular state like any other. And it's like, yeah, sure, they do lots of mistakes. I think that a lot of people, though, that do hate Israel, and I don't know what the percentage would be, I truly don't, but there are a lot of people that do hate Israel, that it's truly coming from an anti-Semitic place, and that's obviously evil. And I think Tucker is, if he's not one of those people, the people listening to him I would probably imagine a large percentage of people listening to Tucker and espousing these views are coming from an anti-Semitic place. So let's just continue along with what he's saying. Look, I would say also like about like Tucker is not figuring it out either. You know, like he complains, I think we're going to see it, like he complains that nobody is asking the questions, nobody is investigating it. Tucker, you know whose job it is to investigate this stuff? Journalists. If the government's not doing it, you do it. You're not, this exactly proves, you're not a journalist, you're a storyteller. Don't just sit down and have a podcast and talk to people. Actually investigate. Go to the island, go to people that you know, contact people, go there. That's what journalists are supposed to do. But like it's kind of like we forgot the definition of journalism nowadays. Like journalism becomes these like political talking heads. That's not journalism. Anyways, moving on.
And we have every right to ask, on whose behalf was he working? How does a guy go from being a math teacher at the Dalton School in the late 70s with no college degree to having multiple airplanes, a private island, and the largest residential house in Manhattan?
This is a fantastic question, right? Assuming Jeffrey Epstein was working for somebody else, we have every right to know what happened. The American public deserves better. We have the right to know how this rich person, this powerful person, was able to get away with heinous crimes for years and years and years. We have every right to ask. We have every right to know as an American public. But for Tucker to go ahead and then harp on Israel and assume it's Israel, right? That is evil, because that's called, he's dog whistling, you know, anti-Semitism. What is a dog whistle? A dog whistle is that when you say something that you could kind of say, oh, it's not anti-Semitism, right? Like, oh, maybe he was working for the Mossad, the Israeli intelligence. That's not anti-Semitic to ask and to say, right? Okay, it's sort of not, but when you look at it at the greater context, right? Like, what is the greater context? Jews have been persecuted and lied about for generations, for years. You know, you go back to Nazi Germany, and even before that, there's a long history of blaming the Jews, right? It's a story that has passed the test of time, right? So it's highly enticing, this cabal of Jews. Jews are these like mysterious, oh my gosh, chosen people. It's so exotic. They're rich, they're powerful, they're this, you know, and it's like, oh my God, Epstein, he's Jewish. Oh my God, Epstein, look, he has this tie with Israel, with this person. It just becomes this very attractive story and narrative that people could latch onto, and it becomes a dogmatic belief more than actual evidence that is being presented. Is there absolutely no evidence? I would say no. There seems to be circumstantial evidence that might point to these directions, that might make questions valid. But it's when you harp on Israel, it's when you harp on, this is the Jews, right? This is these people. That is when, you know, we have to bring Tucker's true intentions into question. What's Tucker's true intentions? Is he anti-Semitic? I don't know. I kind of doubt it. I don't think that he's necessarily doing this to espouse anti-Semitism. I think he's more likely doing this to create a narrative that is attractive, that resonates with millions of people. You know, it's a very attractive story that people could easily latch onto. Tucker, like, if Tucker was some fringe guy, I wouldn't be making a video on this. You know, this video has close to 1 million views. He has almost 4.5 million subscribers. He's obviously a large voice that a lot of people are listening to and taking seriously. And Tucker delivering this message without the nuance that needs to be delivered in order to have this conversation, it's emboldening anti-Semites, right? It's emboldening people that don't want the nuance, that don't care about the nuance, that people are just going to latch onto it. So let's continue. And I know I'm going off on like long rants and rambles here, but it's important.
Where did all the money come from? And no one has ever gotten to the bottom of that because no one has ever tried. And moreover, it's extremely...
No one's ever tried. Tucker, you try. You go and actually do some investigative journalism. Man, that's what journalism is supposed to be. Those are the people who are supposed to try, okay? Our CIA, our intelligence agencies, they're not going to give you answers. They're not. You have to go and uncover them. You know what I mean? They're not going to come out. And even if they did, like, even then, it's not trustworthy. These agencies are designed to be secretive. So with that in mind, let's go on.
Obvious to anyone who watches that this guy had direct connections to a foreign government. Now, no one's allowed to say that that foreign government is Israel because we have been somehow cowed into thinking that that's naughty.
I was like, look at these cheers, honestly, like the amount of people that are just like, oh my God, yeah, look, it's Israel. Okay. There's nothing wrong with asking, what is Jeffrey Epstein's ties to Israel, to England, to America, to any other intelligence agency in a country that, or any country that Jeffrey Epstein was tied to. He was an extremely powerful person that wasn't just like America and Israel. He was tied to powerful people all over the world, right? Like, I don't know, what makes you think that Jeffrey Epstein wasn't an American problem, right? What makes you think it wasn't an English problem? Whatever, whichever intelligence company, agency, whatever you want to talk about, assuming he was intelligence, how do you know it's American? I mean, is Israeli, right? It's not wrong to ask, but when you solely focus and you harp and you continue these stories, these narratives that are interesting because you're blaming this cabal of powerful Jews, this is anti-Semitism. Look, honestly, I could create a conspiracy theory right now about Tucker Carlson. Look, maybe Tucker himself is actually being paid for and bought by Israel, right? And the reason Tucker wants to, say and blame Israel, why would it? Oh, so that, okay, I'm sorry, I'm kind of tongue-tying myself here. But what would be the reason that Israel would want to hire Tucker and blame Israel for this anti-Semitic attack? Because when there's hate for Israel, now you're going to polarize the opposition, right? And you're going to have an opposition that's going to be like, wait, Tucker, whoa, let's not go so fast in jumping the gun. Like rational people like me are going to go, let's not go so fast in jumping the gun towards Israel. And so now rational people are going to look at this and be like, oh my God, look at these kind of like crazy people that are all conspiratorial and going like, blame the Jews. This is Nazi Germany. So now we're going to go and be opposite and be even more supportive of Israel. So actually, Israel is hiring Tucker and paying Tucker in order to spread these views so that it will ultimately benefit Israel at the end of the day. It's a conspiracy theory. Boom. You know what I mean? Like, what's my proof? I don't know. Whoever's paying Tucker is money laundering money to him in a secretive way that doesn't get connected to the Mossad. I am certain, I am absolutely certain, if we did this, we can make a whole documentary about how Tucker's working for Israel. And it's like, I don't know. You know what I mean? You could say whatever you want. You know what I mean? Like, I don't understand. If the cabal of Jews are so powerful, how have they not shut down Tucker yet? I'm just saying that, like, you could say whatever you want. What is the evidence? Where is the evidence? And Tucker, again, like, I'd imagine if he made a rebuttal to this video, which it probably won't, if he made a rebuttal to this video, it would be like, well, look at these people that I podcasted and all this circumstantial evidence. That's the bottom line. It's circumstantial. We don't have conclusive proof. I would love conclusive proof. Whatever the truth may be, I would love to know the American public deserves to know what the truth is, right? But ultimately, you jumping the gun, bringing your circumstantial evidence here, it just spreads hate. And the reason people get upset at you about it is because when you're spreading hate, you are promoting hate crimes, maybe indirectly, right? Like, just an example, when COVID came out and people were saying the China virus, right? What happened is that there was an uptake in hate crimes against Asian Americans. People that aren't even Chinese oftentimes. This is what happens when you just hate monger, right? When you ask questions. Why can't we ask questions? You could ask questions, sure, but like you're harping and you're focusing on this group of people that ultimately it will cause more anti-Semitism in America, and you are hurting people. This is why it's hateful, okay? And you could pretend, Tucker's not an idiot. You could pretend, oh my God, what's wrong with asking these questions? It's Israel. It's not even the Jews. It's not even whatever. It's not even the government. It's just this Mossad agency. It's not even the government. Bro, that's what happens. And Tucker's not an idiot. He's probably doing this on purpose, and it's evil. So we got to call it out.
There is nothing wrong with saying that. There is nothing hateful about saying that. There's nothing anti-Semitic about saying that. There's nothing even anti-Israel about saying that. I've spent my entire life pretty much in Washington, where I knew and loved a number of people, including one very close person who worked at CIA.
So we already addressed those points, but let's move on.
That has never prohibited me from saying, I think the CIA has done some horrible things, murdered a bunch of people, participated in the murder of a sitting U.S. president. It's got a whole trail of crimes. That doesn't make me a disloyal American. It doesn't make me anti-American in any sense. I was born here. My family's been here for hundreds of years. I love this country. That's why I live here. So criticizing the behavior of a government agency does not make you a hater. It makes you a free person. It makes you a citizen. You're allowed to do that because you're not a slave. You're a citizen. And you have a right to expect that your government will not act against your interests, and you have a right to demand that foreign governments not be allowed to act against your interests. That's not creepy. It shouldn't be forbidden. And yet all of us have trained ourselves to believe that you can't say that somehow, that that's like too naughty and forbidden. And the effect of making that off limits has been to create a lot of resentment, and I'll say it, hate online.
Okay, I basically agree with all the points Tucker just made, and I wish, like when he's saying like, oh, criticizing your government, it doesn't make you a hater, it doesn't mean that you hate this country, it makes you a free thinker, right? I wish Tucker gave this, and all Republicans and all Democrats and everybody in all the political sides of the aisle, I wish we extended this type of grace to everybody, right? Like when Black Lives Matter was happening, I believe that a strong talking point amongst Republicans, and probably Tucker himself, was they hate this country. They're trying to tear down this country, right? Like, these people might have a vision of America that is different than what Tucker's vision is. And I think calling out the hate and the atrocious things that have happened to racial minorities in this country, the anti-Semitism, xenophobia, racism, all that stuff, pointing that out doesn't mean that you hate America, right? These people love America. I wish, and everybody, we all love America, and maybe there's a different vision, and it doesn't make you hateful to call out the ways in which America has messed up and can improve, and in the ways in which America is still messing up to this day, right? And we ignore it. It's bizarre. It's crazy, right? I wish that we all kind of just, extended this type of respect. And I don't know why. I truly don't know why. Tucker is a part of this too. There is a push towards separating America politically more and more. And I think the divide is getting stronger and stronger. I don't know what's going on. It's kind of like a new Republican anti-establishment. Before the Republican Party, and when I say before, I mean probably the year 2000, before this whole Trump era, Republicans typically were pro-establishment. The idea was to be conservative. The institutions that we have are in place and they're good and they're there for a reason. And it's let's not mess things up. That's how I think most people in their minds understood the Republican Party. Now you have a whole new Republican Party, and which is what I'm talking about. This kind of really absurd anti-establishment. Look, I am anti-establishment too. I think these people take it way too far. What I mean by anti-establishment is we need to be able to openly criticize the systems in place and how they're hurting people and how people and things are falling through the cracks without tearing down the entire establishment necessarily. Sometimes maybe, I don't know, in some circumstances, some establishments might be worth tearing down completely. But I think one example that's being heavily attacked is universities. Look, universities have a lot of issues, lots of issues with universities, right? Sure, let's address those issues without being oh, college is useless, universities are useless, let's not listen to the scientists, they're all bought and evil and some type of cabal. That's craziness. That's literally craziness. And, Tucker's kind of in that camp, and Candace Owens is in that camp, and a lot of people are kind of in that camp, and it's just really sad. It's kind of crazy to me. But, yeah, I wish we all kind of extended the same grace. And sure, as a taxpayer, and an American, whatever, forget taxpayer, as an American, you have the right to demand or to assume safety in your country, and another country intervening with your country it's what's it called? It's an infringement. I'm forgetting it's a violation, right? It's a violation of your safety and security. So I agree. And look, I totally disagree. I think Tucker's thinking that he's making some type of revolutionary point. I don't know what his point is, because when Russia was involved, or when there were thoughts of Russia being involved in American politics, people didn't accept that. People were obviously no, that's not okay. People in power were obviously no, that's not okay. So we don't accept foreign countries being involved in our country at all. Let's move on.
Where people feel they can't just say, what the hell is this? You have the former Israeli prime minister living in your house. You have had all this contact with the foreign government. Were you working on behalf of Mossad?
Okay, he's talking about Jeffrey Epstein again. How much, if we had to make a pie chart of how many people Epstein hung out with, right, with regards to American intelligence, Israeli, and all the nationals all over the world, what would be the percentage of Israel, right? And then people are going to say, oh, even if it's 1%, right, 50% America, I don't know, 20% something else, whatever, 1% Israel. People are going to harp on that and be oh, this is the evidence of everyone knows that the Jews are the richest and most powerful and thoughtful people. Guys, come on. It's just the same old hate mongering that you're falling for again and again. People that actually buy this, wake up, man. Open your eyes. Don't you realize what path in history you're truly going down? It's not the people that are on the right side of history. You know what I mean? Come on. Anyways.
Were you running a blackmail operation on behalf of a foreign government? By the way, every single person in Washington, D.C. thinks that. I've never met anyone who doesn't think that. I don't know any of them that hate Israel.
We all want to know, was Epstein running a blackmail operation? Was he working for another foreign government? Sure, okay? When you're obsessed with Israel, it's kind of, it's revealing your true intentions.
Israel, but no one feels they can say that. Why? And I think the longer that we play along with it, the more subterranean and creepy and hateful the conversation actually becomes.
I agree. I agree. The more that this is kind of being spoken to, um, it just becomes more hateful. We need like kind of like debunk video. Look, honestly, if it came down to the fact that like Epstein actually was a Mossad agent, it would be very, like puzzling. It would be really like shocking. It would obviously be something that like should not be tolerated at all. I don't know what I'm not gonna have like suggestions of like what should be done if that were true, but like something would need to be done if that were the case, right? It's not acceptable at all, right? But Tucker is jumping the gun. Okay, it's like you need evidence. You can't just spew things, right? And even if you want to say that, like Tucker, even if you want to say, I'm sorry, that Epstein is some type of intelligence asset that has at points maybe worked with the Mossad for some reason or other. Was he primarily Mossad, right? Like what was actually? That's the problem. We don't know. We really just do not know what the heck is going on. Maybe he was independent freelancer. Who knows? We don't know, right? Maybe Epstein was actually an alien. We don't know anything. We just don't know. Obviously, the alien one is unlikely, but like we just don't know, right? It could be anything. So it's like for you to jump the gun. Like, what's your solution? Hate crimes? What's your solution? War against Israel? What's exactly your solution, Tucker? When you blame Israel and the Israelis nonstop, what exactly are you trying to do? Tucker, it's just hateful, man. It's hateful and it's old, used up rhetoric. And it's like, I would assume that you're doing this to just gain an audience. So it's like, come on, man. Come on, dude. Like, you're just willing to say anything in order to keep people's retention. And it's like, it's a cheap story that's survived the test of time that for some reason is being believable again. And it just creates a scary place for people like me, for other people where we see the rise of anti-Semitism in real time. It's kind of crazy. It's pretty insane. So we're just going to move on. He's talking about pointless, endless wars over here because I'm kind of getting tired about like repeating myself with regards to these points. But it's like, Tucker, come on, man. We can't be playing along with this. This is fraudulent. And it's kind of evil. And it's like, come on, Tucker. Pick a new lane. Don't just fall down these. I think Tucker needs to know, and all people really need to know how easy it is to get sucked into a conspiracy theory. Right. And honestly, like I blame a little bit. I a little bit blame these new age atheists. What I mean by new age atheists, there was like an intellectual atheist movement with Richard Dawkins, Christopher Hitchens, Sam Harris. Those people. I blame them a little bit. And I love those guys. Don't get me wrong. I don't want to say like, they're wrong or whatever. This isn't a critique on atheism or anything. But like, I think culturally, when you have these people that just came and they stripped away meaning, they stripped away stories, they made religion seem like a joke, right? Instead of truly being like, what's the reason? Instead of being curious, instead of like understanding what's the reason behind religion, right? Like, why did this evolve? Why is this such a human drive, faith, religious belief? Like, what is going on there? What is the sociological, psychological, maybe biological needs that religion truly fulfills, right? Instead of going down that route, which Yuval Noah Harari does great work on that. If you haven't read *Sapiens*, I highly recommend. It's fantastic, and I think it's an anthropological, historical book. Very fascinating. Instead of going down that route, they went down this other route of just mocking religion, showing the uselessness within religion, the kind of exposing maybe things that are inconsistent with science and incompatible, and then kind of devoiding people of meaning and stories. What happens is that now you create a vacuum, right? You create a vacuum for meaning and community and identity and all these things, and then swoops in people like Tucker with his anti-Semitism, swoops in Candace with the space is fake garbage, and all these conspiracy theories. Now you're seeing a rise of this nationalism and like these like ideas of like us versus them mentality and all this tribalism. It comes back to the surface fast because you create a vacuum. These people feel threatened. Right now you have the rise of QAnon. You have all these things. And it's corrosive for our culture. I think in general, I would love to host any of those people on my podcast. Christopher Hitchens has obviously passed away, but I think Sam Harris also actually has done a better job, but the damage was done. You know what I mean? Sam Harris was very focused on also religious experience. He also has a great book. He's a neuroscientist. If you don't know who Sam Harris is, he has a great book called Waking Up, where he talks about some of these things. It's fascinating. It's very interesting. And I'm not saying that they're wrong. I'm not saying Christians are wrong. I'm not saying Jews are wrong. I'm not saying anybody's wrong or Muslims are wrong in their faith or religion. What I think ultimately is very important is people having community and meaning in life. And it's like when you strip that away, right, and this vacuum opens up, what takes its place? And you have people like this, and you have stories of hate, and you have these things to create tribalism, to create a sense of community. It's ultimately so harmful and corrosive for these individuals. You know what I mean? Like whatever. I'm gonna probably do a future video expounding on these thoughts more about like culturally, you know, religion and atheism and the new age atheism, probably at some point in the future. But you know, just closing my thoughts here, what Tucker's doing is truly wrong. I would argue it's evil because he's not an idiot. You know what I mean? And the reason I actually re-recorded this is because, you know, I made it sound a little more ambivalent last time. I made it sound like, oh, maybe Tucker is you know, maybe he's doing this, you know, he truly believes what he's doing. I don't agree with that. And that's really why I took down that last video. And I'm really trying to like make a little bit more of an expose on this thought. At the end of the day, even if Tucker knows more than he's spewing in this lecture over here, this audience that he's spewing to, this, you know, and these views that he has, these people don't necessarily know the evidence. Like, I'm not even saying that it's impossible that Jeffrey Epstein was, you know, an asset of Israeli intelligence. What I'm saying is I don't know, and Tucker doesn't know, and certainly these people just watching Tucker, they have no idea. They just don't. You know what I mean? And it's like, it's just sad to see him continuously spread this, because even if he is not anti-Semitic, this story is emboldening anti-Semites. I'm sure I'm repeating myself. And one more point I think that I made last time, I don't remember when it came up in the video, I probably skipped it, but you know, Tucker has this whole thing against AIPAC. He says this point of like, oh, maybe I'm accepting money from people. Maybe it'll come up later in the video and I'll just readdress this point. It's like, maybe I'm accepting money from people. Tucker is very hypocritical in that, like, he'll say for himself, maybe I'm accepting money from people. Does that change my views? It's the same thing with people that take money from AIPAC. Sure, do you have crummy politicians that will go wherever the dollar takes them, and maybe they don't actually believe in certain causes and they're just taking money and you know, agreeing with those beliefs because they want the campaign money so that they can win the elections? Sure, I'm sure they're crummy politicians. But by and large, the reason why people donate to a politician is because the politician already has those beliefs, and so they donate. At least that's the theory. You know, it's questionable. Should we ever allow, you know, PACs or lobbies? Should we ever allow those things? I don't know. You know, it's bribery at the end of the day. But once you do allow it, I don't see the issue with AIPAC being an American-Israeli alliance. You know, that's American Jews that want a good relationship with Israel. Whatever, we might talk about it later, we might not, but right now I'm not feeling it. So we're just going to move on. We're going to talk about endless, pointless wars.
You know, reading the talking point that apparently everyone, a bumper sticker that is for sale somewhere, I guess. And I'm like, okay, I don't even know what that means exactly, but how many Americans have been killed by Shia terrorism in my lifetime, which is 56 years? I can't think of any. I'm sure there have been some in the United States. There have been Shia terror attacks sponsored by Iran in the US. I can't think of any. There was 9/11. That was a Sunni terror attack. And then there's the drug epidemic, which has killed more than 1 million people during that same period. People I know, my next door neighbor's kid, dead. A bunch of people I know have died. And a bunch have been totally screwed up and taken out of life, basically. Their lives have been hollowed out. They're husks.
This is a serious issue, and I never understood it. Drugs and the opiate epidemic is a really serious issue. And I don't understand why in America it's really not something that we're focusing on. Like, you know, there's all this talk about like, oh, let's secure the border or whatever. Excuse me. That is not going to solve the drug epidemic. I think it might help to a degree. Like, if you could truly stop drug smuggling into America, if you could truly stop it, that would help in the sense of like you're decoupling the availability of drugs in America. That might actually help. Typically speaking, I'm actually a libertarian. I think that a lot of illegal substances should be legal. I would definitely make an exception for opiates, definitely the stronger ones. You know, certainly the stronger ones. But honestly, I think that the largest reason for the drug epidemic in America, it's not because of Mexico and drugs being smuggled into America. It's the larger cause of the drug epidemic, I would argue, is probably Big Pharma. And Mike Malice had this phenomenal book. He's a co-host of Logan Paul's podcast. He was an opiate addict himself, and he was a dealer too. He wrote this book called The Fifth Vital, which was all about his experience with the opiate epidemic. And it's incredible. He opens up each chapter talking about the drug deaths in America and how Big Pharma basically pushed painkillers, really. and it's really scary. It's just his personal story, and it's a true story. And it's just like he opens up each chapter, like in the beginning, before the big pharma really started pushing opiates and painkillers. I believe Oxy was the first one. He says like, oh, a couple of hundred opiate overdose deaths. By the time he ends the book, it's like tens of thousands, maybe millions. I don't remember the exact numbers, and I don't want to botch it, but it's like obviously that had a huge effect on the American public. And it's like, I don't know, it's obviously extremely scary. And it's an issue that we don't focus on. Like, is Iran a big issue? Tucker's arguing Iran is not a big issue. Well, look, what have they ever done? But at the end of the day, and this is kind of blown over already, and he's probably going to talk about it, but like the idea of deactivate or like taking away Iran's capacity for developing nuclear weapons is a good thing, especially when your intelligence agencies, right, are saying that Iran is close to developing a nuclear weapon. And if they do, there's a likely possibility that they'll try to use it against America/American interests, right? Like when that's the case, right, it is obviously a good idea to take away their capacity to have nuclear weapons. It is obviously a good idea. You can't tell me that it's not a good idea, right? Like Tucker might argue with this reality. He might say like, oh, what are you talking about? They're not close to developing a nuclear weapon. They're not going to use it against America. Fine. Tucker, what do you know? You don't know anything. You're just a guy, right? Like you're not actually journaling this. You're not doing journalism. You're just storytelling. You're just making up your narratives. Come on, man. Like your actual intelligence agencies are saying that this is a likely possibility. Why are you lying to the American public? Why are these people like, dude, Voldemort has arrived. Voldemort's not here. Voldemort, like literally, this is like Harry Potter, man. It's literally just like, dude, if your intelligence agencies are saying this is what's happening, why are you arguing with this? Why are you sowing distrust? It doesn't make sense. If you have proof, go ahead and present your proof. Sure, don't just lie to these people. Don't just say these stories without the backup, man. You're truly lying to people. Look, if Tucker ended up saying, let's launch a full-scale war, or whatever, if whatever the party was, let's launch a full-scale war against Iran because they're close to getting nukes, I would say that's a stupid idea. Come on, let's avoid the war. But the idea of sending some type of bomb to disable their nuclear capabilities is a good idea. It's a good idea. It's less likely to, blow up into a larger war, and it will disable their nuclear capacity. That's a good idea. Sure. Okay. Is there a risk of it escalating to a larger war? Sure. Is that what Tucker's probably trying to avoid? Sure. But to do nothing and let them develop nuclear weapons is stupidity. Okay? It's stupidity. And honestly, it's hard to even understand and wrap my head around what he's thinking. I just don't know. Anyways, moving on.
They've been totally destroyed by drugs. That's the reality that I live in the United States. So you're telling me Iran is a bigger threat than the people peddling this garbage?
Drugs is a serious problem. The government could do more than one thing at a time. This is also such a stupid argument. You're telling me Iran's a bigger issue than drugs? It's not. But at the end of the day, the government could do both. The government could disable Iran's nuclear capabilities and do things that actually work, solutions that actually work to take care of the drug epidemic in America. Right? There's serious research coming out about things that actually work in healing people from substance abuse, right? One of which being psychedelics, which I've talked about in the past. Fascinating research being done. This is real research, obviously, and it's like we should take it very seriously. I would imagine Tucker's probably against this real research coming out, and this is what happens when you have people that want the science to agree with what they actually believe versus what is actually the truth of reality. Let's go with that, right? Let's understand what the truth is. Let's look at the evidence. Let's make studies. Let's investigate. And whatever the truth is, let's understand it and work in reality, right? Like that should be a basic common sense thing that everybody is able to gather around. Moving forward.
I don't think so. Not where I live, it's not. Oh, shut up. And the person literally said, we're going to have to agree to disagree. Disagree with...
Okay, I don't know who he's talking about. I don't think anybody ever said, let's agree to disagree that drugs is a big problem in America. It's obviously a huge problem. There are lots of people overdosing. I don't know the exact numbers. I think maybe millions at this point, right? Like, that have overdosed. It's a big issue. It's a huge issue. It's a serious issue. Something needs to be done about it. And this is the funny thing. Instead of talking about transgender issues, instead of talking about illegal immigration, why don't we talk about the drug issues in America? Right? Like, why don't we talk about real issues that actually hurt everyday Americans? Why don't we talk about the fact that food prices are becoming really high and unaffordable, and the fact that like egg companies can raise the prices on eggs arbitrarily and come up with some story about how bird flu caused this massive decrease in eggs. Meanwhile, that's not true, right? Like, it caused somewhat of a decrease in eggs, but to justify a 3 times price increase is crazy, right? Why don't we talk about the fact that people are not earning enough wages to afford a nice apartment in New York City, right? Why don't we talk about these real issues? Why don't we? I don't understand. These are all things that I wish everybody just came around and sat around the table and actually discussed with all people around every side of the aisle. And look, I'm not saying Tucker is the only one to blame here. The Democrats suck at this too. The Republicans suck at everybody sucks at this. All the politicians suck at this. Why can't we talk about real issues? Why can't Republicans sit down with Democrats and vice versa and centrists and let's talk about real ideas to actually advance civilization and humanity and create a better world for the American population and the next generation? Why can't we do that? It's extremely frustrating. It's so fun to actually vent about this. And it's like, it's really, really, really frustrating to just sit here and listen to this and be like, guys, why have you been pushing transgender issues for years and years and years? Why aren't we talking about the drug epidemic, real estate prices, food prices? Why aren't we talking about the real issues that hurt everyday Americans that are making the American dream impossible? Seriously, it's pointless. It's stupid. It makes me angry. Anyways, moving on.
With what? What are you even talking about? But at least he gave me an answer. He didn't say, oh, you hate so-and-so. He didn't go immediately to motive. Okay, so this is always the tell. This is when you know you're dealing with someone who has zero interest in getting to the truth of the question and instead is trying to make you be quiet in order to roll over you and make you obey. And
I think to criticize Tucker, I think Tucker does the exact same thing. I think literally Tucker will literally be like, oh, I don't know, you're getting money from AIPAC. I don't know, you're, I don't know, a socialist, whatever. Whatever. Tucker shuts down people too. And it's not like he's open-minded, like listening to people all the time. And again, it's not like, I don't want to misrepresent him. I don't listen to him a ton. But this is my characterization of Tucker. And I don't, maybe I'm wrong, but this is how I see him. Let's move on from this point.
So the second point I would make, before maybe taking a couple of your hostile questions, I hope, about Qatar, is I was brooding about this today. What about the Epstein story is so uniquely infuriating? And I'll just say, I mean, I've never met Epstein, but I mean, I know a million people who knew Jeffrey Epstein. It is true that he was around. Like, everyone knew Jeffrey Epstein. I don't think I was cool enough to actually meet him, but like, he was just a guy who was kind of circulating around, like this rich guy who knew everybody. What is it? And everyone knew he was a creep, but then there are a lot of creeps in that world. Just telling you what you probably know already. What is it about Jeffrey Epstein that's so infuriating to people, so infuriating that it's actually causing seismic political problems? And I hope that they'll address it and it'll get better. I really do. But what is it? I'll tell you what it is. It's the frustration of normal people watching a certain class of people get away with everything every single time. That's what.
Honestly, yes, amen. It's obviously extremely frustrating that you have somebody that's rich and powerful he's been treated like a joke. He's been getting away with things, and it's bizarre. It's really, really, really bizarre. It's unacceptable. You know, we deserve better. We deserve more, and it's like, it's a general problem. It's like when in 2008 the stock market crashes, and this is caused by the bankers, right? So many people are lose their homes, lose their jobs, are suffering. I don't know. And did any bankers get arrested? Any of these CEOs giving out irresponsible loans get arrested? Like, seriously. When Big Pharma pushes out opiates, cigarettes, anybody got arrested? Anybody? For the amount of deaths and destruction that they caused and the corrosion of the country? Anybody getting arrested for that? Like, it's just like there's a different set of rules for people that are behind the law and people that are in front of the law. And it's like a low-level weed dealer gets arrested before weed became legal. And I don't know, somebody pushing out opiates claiming that it's not a non-addictive. Meanwhile, people are getting addicted and dying, and kids are getting their hands on it and stuff. And the irresponsible use of it, it's kind of crazy. So, moving on.
It's what it is. And that drives me absolutely bonkers. By the way, it's one of the things that bothers me about immigration. You know, as someone who got arrested in Syracuse, New York as a kid because I had an expired driver's license and brought to a cell, I'm watching people come, that actually happened. I have done time. It does change a man. Yes, I joined a gang. But I watch, 60 million people come into the country illegally or overstay their fake refugee status or whatever. I mean, the whole thing's a scam. And they get housing vouchers and free education and free cell phones and plane tickets.
Okay, talking about this, illegal immigration is another one of those things that I just don't understand. I think, obviously, it's lots of thoughts on illegal immigration. How much is it going to cost to deport every single illegal immigrant, right? Like I think when Trump first started his campaign against illegal immigration, right? Like we were talking about like let's deport the killers, the whatever, all these terrible people, right? And I would argue, sure, any criminal, legal, illegal, who cares what race or nationality or religion or where they're from, any person committing heinous crimes should be removed from society, period. You know what I mean? And I would, sure, I would agree with that. But what it's become, oh, let's deport, farm workers, whatever, these people sitting outside of Home Depot. Are you crazy, man? Like, come on. Like, what are we doing? What are we doing? These people are coming here to this country, oftentimes truly refugees, making tremendous sacrifices in order to make it here. And it's so hard to get into this country legally through legal channels. These people are willing to make these sacrifices. It's like, why are we deporting these people? I just don't understand it, right? Like, how much does it cost to deport a person with regards to the ICE agents, capturing them, sending them back to the country? I don't know, $10,000 a person at least, probably, I would guess, right? At minimum, each person to deport. I would agree that, sure, maybe we're handling the illegal immigration issue irresponsibly, but the solution is not like, let's deport everybody. Like, maybe the solution is how could we figure out a way to incorporate these people into our current economy, into our current society, so that they're actually an asset to us, to the American people, instead of this liability that Tucker is presenting. And not only that, I think, honestly, you can make a pretty solid argument that when you invest in these people, and they're able to work, and they're willing to work tremendous hours, it ultimately is worth it to end up giving them free healthcare or whatever, or free education, in order to help them boost the economy. And obviously, I wouldn't just say that for illegal immigrants alone. I would say that the entire American public deserves that. You know what I mean? And it's like, we need to work our way there. And it's like, is there an issue of maybe them skipping the line? Like, I understand that. I'm sympathetic to that. The solution is not all or nothing. There's lots of space in the middle, which is actually going to work, probably, doesn't involve just deporting, every single person. I don't know. How much is it going to cost? Honestly, each individual person to deport. I think it's at least $10,000 at minimum. I would imagine probably $100,000 each individual person. So what's the right solution there? I don't think it's deportation. Whatever, let's move on, because I think he's actually going to address this later, so I'll bring it up then in more detail.
Tickets, it's like, wait a second, not only are they not getting punished for breaking American law, as I would and have, they're getting rewarded for it. The unfairness of it drives you crazy, and it's...
Yeah, it truly does. But obviously, this is what's funny, is that he started this rant by saying that it's insane how there's a certain class of people, talking about the rich and powerful, that are, getting away with crimes every time. And then he brings up illegal immigration. Dude, they're the exact opposite of Epstein. Literally the exact opposite. The problem is that you have extremely rich and powerful people that are getting away with things unfairly, truly unfairly. There's a different set of laws for people in front of the law and behind the law. Are we handling illegal immigration poorly? I'm fine saying that, sure. Like, I could understand. I can understand stopping the flow of illegal immigration too. Like, maybe we're getting over, what's the word? Like, it's overwhelming our current systems. I could understand that. Sure, maybe. Like, you could hear valid arguments. What is the correct thing to do once they're already here? It's a valid debate, and it's not one or the other. It's not, oh, let's keep them here and give them education and free medical assistance and don't make them work and all these. That's obviously not a good solution. It's unsustainable. At the same time, hiring tons of ICE agents to deport Home Depot workers and farm workers. Like, come on, man. What are you doing? Like, what is happening here? Like, what? Like, seriously, it's stupidity. Anyways, we're just going to move on to debt killing Americans' point.
Happening. One of the reasons it's happening is because normal people with normal jobs no longer believe they can win in this system, and that all the money is going to the worst people.
Amen. Absolutely. All the money is, we're being squeezed. We're being squeezed, man. The American population is being squeezed. New York City is becoming completely unaffordable. It's crazy. Housing is insane. My wife and I, we were actually looking at, we wanted to move, and we saw this one rent stabilized apartment unit that you have to have an income requirement for of something between like $130,000 to $250,000, something like that. And the apartment cost was I think like let's say $4,500, 40 something for a 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath. And I was just like, first of all, I'm like, wow, that's such a good price, because these apartments are so freaking expensive. It's crazy. And you think about that, if it wasn't for the government stepping in and saying, this is the price that you have to charge, you know how much that apartment would cost? At least eight grand. 8 grand. And how many units are there of these rent stable? I assume it's extremely competitive. I assume there are very few apartments where you could actually get that. It's a nice 3-bedroom, 1.5 bath for $4,800 in New York City. I would assume that the amount of apartments that they have is very limited. And it's like most of the apartments that you have are 8 grand in that category, right? Of that level of apartment. It's like 7 to 8 grand, something like that. Sometimes even more, right? You have $14,000 apartment for the same exact thing, honestly. And it's crazy. It's mind-blowing. Who can afford that? Honestly, I don't know anybody that could afford that. That's insane. It's truly insanity. That's the level. And me and my wife, we were looking at that. We're like, wow, that's such a good price. Do you realize, if your salary is let's say at 150, 200,000, post taxes, whatever, you're basically giving half your salary just for rent. This is supposed to be an affordable apartment. It's crazy. It's insane. And the thing is that most people in New York, with your average jobs, such as therapist, actuary, accountant, nurses, whatever, lawyers even, they're not making that much money. Maybe if you're very far along in your career, sure, but they're not making that much money, especially starting out, right? So it's really crazy that this is the expectation and the standard of living. It's totally unsustainable. I don't know what's going to happen. Probably another real estate crash at some point because, honestly, the only way to live there is millionaires, and millionaires aren't doing the jobs of ordinary people. So it's kind of strange. I don't know who's living in these places. Anyways, moving on.
And no one even stops to ask, what the hell is going on? How did Bill Ackman get so rich? I'm going to go on CNBC and talk down Herbalife. Bet against companies by driving down their stock prices. That's what he's been accused of. I'm not accusing him here because he's sue me if I do. I'm just suggesting others believe that might have happened. He's already threatened to sue me for saying that. But there are plenty of people who do that. And I'm not saying even that it should be illegal. What I'm saying is that our leadership class should say something about it and should assign a moral value to it.
Yeah, I kind of forgot his point, actually. But yeah, the debt is crazy. It's craziness that we don't talk about it. And I wish that we all gathered around, all the people, all the thoughtful people and commenters and all these people actually sat down and had real conversations with everybody about different ideas, economists, on any side of the political aisle. Let's have conversations. Let's actually understand what is the best way to tackle the growing debt crisis in America, right? What is the best way to improve the living quality of everyday people, right? Seriously, can't we all talk about this? Can we all sit down and have a conversation instead of oh, you're crazy, you're evil, you're racist, you're this, you're that. Let's actually sit down and have real conversations.
And if you're getting rich by loaning money to people at incredibly high interest rates, that's something you're going to have to talk to God about. That is not good.
It's true. It's totally evil, and it's crazy to me that this is what's happening. I agree with Tucker on this, and it's why can't we all sit together and talk about it? And it's I don't know, man. I think the Democrats have lost touch with everyday people. The Republicans are going down this rabbit hole, which is kind of crazy. It's just polarization in America. I don't know what the hell's going on, and so that's why I find it very therapeutic to just get my thoughts out and talk about this. I really hope that you guys find it therapeutic too. It's really getting kind of long. I'm going to skip ahead. Let's see if there are any other points, and then maybe we'll close up.
Actual aneurysm is, unless we say to the people in charge, we are going to determine what's important, you need to listen to us, your voters, about what we actually care about. I'll take a lecture for about 10 minutes. I can do that. I went to school. I'm used to sitting there and being like, oh, yeah, okay, the Axis powers. That's so important. Thank you for telling me. I can take a lecture for about 10 minutes, and they're telling me Iran is the greatest sponsor of terrorism. Okay, that's great. I hate Iran. Got it. But at some point, I want to pipe up and say, yeah, but what are you going to do about Union Station in Washington, D.C., which is filled with passed out drug addicts with spreading urine stains? It wasn't that way. I was here. How did that happen, and why aren't you fixing it? And by the way, if you don't fix it...
I totally agree with Tucker at this point. This is a true issue. It's a true issue.
Or even acknowledge it, dude, bad things could happen. Wake up. Time is to wake up out of your freaking fantasy world where you think telling the rest of us to shut up is enough If you keep doing that, this could go in dark direction. So I think it's so important for every person to look around and make your own decisions about what's important. What's important to you? What around you in your life? What do you see in your family, among your friends, in the town that you live in that's going wrong? Those are the biggest problems. Not what some shill on television is telling you your biggest problems are. He can shut up, but he won't. But
Tucker is part of this problem also, where it's like, look, you could make a strong argument, like, your obsession with Jeffrey Epstein and the political party's obsession with Jeffrey Epstein, like, that's a distraction, right? Like, it's not a distraction, it kind of is, but like, it's an important issue, the Jeffrey Epstein thing. And our harping focus, our complete absorption into this story, into things like trans issues. Like, here's the thing. I think trans issues, obviously, it's an important issue for those that it affects. But, trans people are a vast minority of the American population. And I think most of the Republicans that were obsessed with trans issues, this became like a huge, huge, huge Republican talking point, are by and large unaffected by trans issues. By and large, completely unaffected. They probably don't know anybody that's trans. Maybe they do. Maybe a few of them, like their kid came out or whatever, and so it's maybe and they don't understand it, and so it's a deep personal issue for certain select people. But most people that were obsessed with trans issues do not have any sort of like connection to that issue. You know what I mean? I think the same with illegal immigration. I think Tucker points out that there are 60 million illegal immigrants in America. I don't know where he got that number from. I don't know if it's true. I personally have not seen or been affected much by illegal immigration. I would imagine that most of these people living in suburbs that are so concerned about illegal immigration are not affected by it either. So it just becomes like, this is a distraction, right? Like, why can't we talk about the homelessness? Why can't we talk about the drug issues? Why can't we talk about these issues that truly and actually matter, right? Like, we're being distracted and lied to by these issues that truly don't affect that many people. And we'll move on from this, but it's like, it's truly like, yeah, come on, like, can't we have real conversations on any side of the political aisle? Can't we do that?
Look around. What's the biggest problem in your life? And if you're burdened by a car loan or some credit card payment you can never actually make, if you can't afford to make the full payment on your credit card 2 months in a row, that's a crisis, okay? That's a crisis. If you're in the hole to DraftKings to a point where you can't pay, I'm serious. These are huge problems, and most of them are money related. And if they're not solved, you're not getting married, and you're not having children, and you're not going to have a happy, fulfilling life, period. And
I completely agree with Tucker on this point. Completely. Those are serious issues that we really need to tackle. Democrats aren't doing anything about it. Republicans aren't doing anything about it. Look, I think by and large, the Democrats have been focusing on like lower class, the poorest of people, except homelessness. But what about the middle class? You know what I mean? Like, what about like this possibility of people actually working, getting an education, working hard, taking out student loans in order to invest in themselves, in order to invest in this country, and it not paying off? You know what I mean? Like, why is it impossible to live in the city? Why is it impossible to go into a grocery store is concerning at times. You know what I mean? It's like having a car in a place where, having a car in Manhattan's kind of frivolous, but like in Queens where I live, it's so expensive to have a car. It's crazy. It's getting insane. It's getting like really, really, really bizarrely insane.
And they tell you, oh, it's all about values. Yeah, okay, values. You can't afford a house? I don't care what your values are like. You're not having 4 kids in an apartment.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, there are actually big apartments. You could have 3-bedroom apartments, even bigger than that. You could have apartments that are theoretically as large as houses. But, it is truly a big issue that I think in New York City, it's not just the price that's kind of crazy. It's the size. The size is crazy. People are living like rats. It's crazy. It's absolutely bizarre.
So you need to be heard on that. And anyone who tells you, oh, shut up, racist, hoist the middle finger and tell him, keep talking to me that way, pal, and we'll punish you. Anyway, sorry, excuse me. Do we have any hostile questions about Qatar? Yes. Well, that's so nice. Tell your mom I love you or her. Okay, your mom does too. Any questions? Yes, sir. What do I think about amnesty for farm workers? I think it's the most grotesque thing I've ever heard. Are you joking? Amnesty for farm workers?
Okay, this is absolute stupidity, and let's tackle this. There is a vacancy in a job position for farm workers, right? Which means what? Which means that the job is not being filled, Which means what? Which means that either in order to hire somebody, you would have to raise the wages of these people, which would make products more expensive at the end of the day, or you would have to produce less, which means that food is going to become more expensive either way, right? So there's a vacancy for the farm worker, and an illegal immigrant comes and he's willing to come and work on a farm, which means that the labor is going to be cheaper and the prices ultimately for food at the end of the day is going to be cheaper, which Tucker is for, right? Deporting farm workers? What are you doing? What are you thinking, man? This is a person that is coming to this country, like I said already, probably running away from an oppressive regime to work hard in this country. Farm work is not easy work. They're willing to sit there and stand there actually for long hours of the day and work extremely hard. You want to deport a farm worker? Like I said already, like in the beginning, let's deport the criminals and the rapists and the... Sure, let's do it. Yeah, no criminals, I agree. But the farm workers, the Home Depot workers, the people outside cutting in the heat, selling water bottles and fresh cut mangoes, what are we doing? What is this point? And people are cheering for this nonsense. What stupidity. Amnesty for farm workers is it's truly a stupid argument, because amnesty, we could say amnesty. Amnesty is just a word. Why not just make it easier for people to come into this country when there's a vacancy in a job position, especially an integral one like farm working, right? If people don't want to work on farms, fine. There's a vacancy in a job position here. Can we find people that are maybe willing to come here and work on these farms and work hard? Don't we need good laborers in this country? Can't we make it easier for them to come here? It's so funny, because I think a lot of Americans don't realize how difficult it is to immigrate to this country legally. These days, it's extremely difficult. It could often take a decade of time. It's not simple. It's not a simple process. There are ways of speeding up the process, such as maybe marrying an immigrant. Marrying a citizen. There are ways of speeding up the process, but it's like, sure, you want to say amnesty or whatever. Forget the word amnesty. Can't we make it easier to fill positions of jobs that are not being used? Because otherwise, either it's the production is going to go down or products are going to get more expensive. Either is bad, and either way, products are going to get more expensive. Either production is going to go down or it's going to cost more money to produce the same amount of products. Either way, the products go up, and it's worse for the American people. Worse, right? Like having groceries, it becomes like harder and harder as time goes on, and it's insane. It's insane. What if we increase the labor, right? And the labor could be cheaper, food could be cheaper, everything could be cheaper, right? So why can't we do that? Why can't we just live in a world of common sense where we're actually sitting around and amnesty for farm? You want to deport farm? How much is it going to cost to deport a farm worker? I don't know, $100,000, right? Like we talk already. Like you're hiring a team of ICE agents, the vans, all the equipment, the I don't know. They have to go get the guy. They have to apprehend him. They have to put him in jail. All this, whatever, and then eventually they deport him. The price for the flight, the price for all this stuff, the boat, however you want to deport him. It's all extremely, extremely expensive. Why are we doing this? Why are we doing this? It's stupidity. It's literal stupidity, and it's the dumbest idea I ever heard, and these people are clapping about it, and it's just stupidity. I don't know what's wrong with these people. Where is your thinking on this even? It's so obvious that that's a stupid idea. Look, we don't have to say, if you don't want to say amnesty, sure. Can't we actually have a real conversation about, like, wait a second, these jobs are vacant. What's a good idea to actually, increase production and make the labor as easy as possible or whatever. I don't know what the correct answers would be, but like, come on, like you're trying to deport people that are often making extreme sacrifices to be in this country. That is not the right solution. It's a very stupid, overblown, overgeneralized solution that it's just sad to see people clap about this. Anyways, moving on.
We have like 60 million illegal aliens in the country. The country bears no resemblance to the country I grew up in, and
I literally have no idea what he's talking about. I don't know what he's talking about. The only time I see illegal immigrants, again, like I said, cutting fresh mangoes, selling water on the street corners, maybe custodial staff, maybe people working behind the counter at kitchens and stuff. And then again, I wouldn't even know if they're illegal or not. But it's like, that's what I would assume. And it's like, these are people that are coming to this country that want to work hard, that often don't even get paid for their services, and they're just willing to scrape by with very little. Honestly, and it's very sad, and it's not good for them, and it's not good for us. Let's actually have a real conversation on the solutions of these things without stupid generalized answers of like let's deport them all, or let's give them free everything. Come on, let's actually come up with real solutions to have these people be assets to the economy. My parents came here legally. My dad was an my dad was a mechanical engineer and my mom was a nurse. They're both retired now. They worked extremely, extremely hard, gave to this country, paid taxes, bought houses, right? Benefited the economy, right? They were ultimately good for the expansion and creation of New York City. And unfortunately, it's becoming unaffordable, but like they are integral, right? Like they're a part of this process of like immigrants coming in, bringing their skills, bringing their expertise, right? Like that is why they come here to experience the American dream. They have high levels of expertise, high levels of skill, willingness to work, willingness to make incredible sacrifices in order to benefit this country. And in exchange, to live a life of freedom of religion, freedom of speech, freedom of, to own property and to buy groceries and feed their children nutritious food and to have this kind of freedom. That is the trade-off, to come here for this American dream. And it's a beautiful, beautiful thing, which is becoming like, I don't know, like these people are anti. It's just crazy to me. It's really crazy. And it's like, if I wanted to, be Tucker Carlson here or whatever, or some other Republican, I'd be like, they hate America. They're trying to destroy the American dream and the middle class. You know what I mean? Come on, man. Like, I don't know. Yep.
And it's not better, it's worse.
Yell at Tucker.
So I'm not going to sit for another lecture from anybody telling me we need to import more people to write code or pick grapes or any other task. Period. It hasn't worked.
Tucker's wrong. It has worked. He's flat out just wrong about this. It has worked. It does help, right? Having people with high levels of skill, with willingness to work, is good for your country, right? The economic demands are growing tremendously, right? In New York, in the last, I believe, year or 2 years, it's the job opportunities, the job openings have opened 24%, which means that there's economic demand and people are coming in to work. New York wants people to come and work. There are job vacancies. If those jobs aren't filled, then production is less, right? And if production is less, things become more expensive and it becomes harder for the people. At the same time, housing has only increased by 2 to 4% or something like that, which is obviously an issue. The housing is not increasing at the rate that the economy demands. That's obviously a big issue. Tucker is just flat out wrong. It's stupid. I don't know why these people are clapping about it. It's wrong, right? Like, and especially you're talking about farm workers. Tucker's talking about farm workers, man. Like, come on. Isn't this like, it's so hard. Somebody could comment in the comments if they understand Tucker's point. I don't personally. Yeah, let's just move on. This is kind of getting long, so maybe we'll skip to the last point, or maybe we'll just end here.
Country hasn't gotten richer. It hasn't become more unified.
The country has gotten richer. It definitely hasn't become more unified because Tucker is spewing hate, but it definitely has gotten richer according to GDP measures or whatever. At the same time, the middle class is shrinking, but at the same time, the richest of rich people are getting even more rich. So yeah, the prosperity is not being equally shared, right? So that's obviously a big, big, big issue.
Those words should burn on the tongue of anyone who utters them. How dare you talk like that? Amnesty. How about deportation?
Stupidity, honestly. How dare you, Tucker? How dare you? Stupidity. Honestly, it's like it's kind of funny because Tucker was just railing on the how much he hates when somebody tells him, oh, shut up, oh, this, whatever. Tucker's literally doing the same thing. It's just stupid hypocrisy. And I want to see better from our political commentators. I want to see better from all journalists, from all politicians. I want to see better. You guys, honestly, all the politicians, all the speakers, I don't know what is going on. Maybe this is some type of conspiracy theory in and of itself, but it's like, why are we doing this? Why the polarization? Why the stupid? Why can't we assume that people are coming from a good place, that we could actually have real and valid conversations without shutting people down and actually get into the nuance of things? People are smarter than that. And it's just, this becomes kind of this dogmatic, preachy, very like almost like religious talk. It's not even true what he's saying. And it's like, people are just eating this up because it becomes this like interesting story of like, us versus them. Like, yeah, the illegal immigrants, they're the problem. The transgender people, they're the problem. It just becomes like a rally cry for tribalism and to get people to unite and spew stupid ideas. And every once in a while, Tucker will have a great idea, right? Like really relating to these people. Like, oh, don't you notice that your wallet is hurting? That's because of the illegal immigrants. It's not true. And your wallet is hurting, but it's not because of the illegal immigrants. So it's just kind of like, come on, man. We expect better. We deserve better. Tucker, come on, man. I don't know what's going on. Let's continue to move on here, and we'll address this last point, and then I think it's getting kind of long, so we'll end.
Okay.
How you doing tonight, sir?
I'm spun up, baby.
First off, I'd like to thank you for coming to this event. I'm 20 years old. I've been watching you for the past 12 years of my whole life, every single night. I've always listened to you, so thank you for coming. We love to listen to your opinions, listen to you preach basically to everyone.
Because that's what this is. This is truly preaching. It's not really journalism. It's storytelling. It's preaching.
Question is, in your opinion, we have individuals in this country that are full citizens that are also full citizens of other countries. In your opinion, how can somebody pledge allegiance to two countries at the same time? And is that something that we should be allowing?
I mean, I think your question says it all. Obviously, that's absurd. I quote the New Testament, but I also refer to common sense when I say that no man can serve two masters. It's not possible.
Okay, pausing here. Tucker obviously has a different understanding of what a country is than I do, because I don't look at a country like a master, right? No man could serve two masters, quoting scripture, talking about dual citizenship of a country. It's stupidity. I don't know what he's talking about. A country is not a master. A country is a place you live, where the country protects your rights, provides the services. Excuse me. They protect your rights, provide the services, they take tax money in exchange, and they stand for certain values which, hopefully align with your values, and sure. Aside for that, it's like, it's not a master that you pledge allegiance to. So that's really kind of stupid, but let's move on.
I only have one wife for that reason. You say to your wife, I'm going to take another wife, but I'm going to love you just as much. Nothing's going to change. My wife's going to look at me like, no, that's one wife. Because you can only really pledge your loyalty to one person or one country. That's just a fact.
So obviously, this is stupidity, because you could obviously pledge your loyalty to your wife, and then you could pledge your loyalty to your country. He's claiming that he pledges both. So obviously, this is stupidity. He's obviously wrong. The same way you could have loyalty for all your children, right? Like, you could love all your children. You could love the first one, second one, third one, like as many children, you can love them all, right? Like, that's not it's just a really stupid argument. I think also you could love two women in theory, or two people in theory. It's just, if you made a commitment, you made a commitment. That's a different story. If you made a commitment to only live in one country, or to have a passport in one country, like, okay, so you want to live by that commitment, that's fine. But the idea that, like, you can't, it's just wrong. It's just stupidity. I don't know. Whatever.
And there's also a sense, and this is relevant to me, and I know you're speaking about Israel, but it's not just Israel, to be honest. I think it's a huge problem. I think anybody, by the way, who serves in a foreign military should lose his citizenship immediately. There are a lot of Americans who've served in the IDF. They should lose their citizenship. There's a lot of Americans who've served in Ukraine, and they should lose their citizenship. You can't fight for another country and remain an American, period.
Okay, this is obviously also stupidity. I think that if you are fighting for an American adversary, right, sure, lose your citizenship. I agree with that. I agree. If you go to North Korea to fight for North Korea, or you go to China to fight for China, these are, or Russia, or Afghanistan, definitely if you're fighting against the Americans, at any sort of point, like, I could agree with that. If you go to ISIS, for example, when they were actually relevant, I could agree, right? Like, that's crazy. You know what I mean? Like you're fighting for a technical American enemy. Like, I get that. I totally understand that. But you're talking about American allies, people with American interests in mind. They should not lose their citizenship. That's stupidity. I think that if it ever came to be that, like, there was, a war against those people, then I could understand the argument more. You know what I mean? But there isn't. These are American allies. It's in America's interest to keep these countries alive and stable. And, Ukraine is a boundary against Russia and the West, right? Like, it's a good... We hope Ukraine wins the war, because if Ukraine doesn't win the war, this is a sure sign for Putin that they could get away with it. Russia could get away with it. You know what I mean? So it's like, come on, like, you want the boundary. You don't want Putin to think that he has the ability to expand and there's no consequences for him. It's obviously dangerous. So, whatever. Let's continue with that. Tucker is just wrong. I don't know what he's talking about. Let's move on.
Obviously. I mean, it's like not even... It's so funny how all of us have been cowed into being like, oh, that's hate speech. No, it's not.
I wouldn't say it's hate speech. I would just say it's wrong. You know what I mean? Like if you're fighting for a foreign military that is an adversary of America, sure, but it's pro. I don't see what he's saying.
You don't hear hate in my voice because there isn't any. It's just an obvious recognition of the truth. But there's a more insidious thing, and I say it's not just Israel. I'm not just trying to like give myself cover. I'm being honest. There are a ton of countries that offer citizenship, actually, some of which I love. I have been offered citizenship in a couple different countries that I really like, and I thought about it. And then I thought, no, there's something about being lashed to the mast. Like everyone can see that America's in trouble, the demographic trends are really bad, and the country's decaying and cities are falling apart. So you're like, oh, wow, maybe I should flee. And then I'm like, my ancestors are from here. My parents are buried right across from my kitchen. I'm staying here. And the second you make that decision in your head, like, I don't care what happens to America, I will be here. It totally changes your attitude. You're like, I don't even care. It's my country. And they've been here for so long and fought in all of these wars. My ancestors, and I'm sure yours, would be totally shocked by some of the conversations. Foreign flags?
Tucker doesn't strike me as a warrior. He doesn't strike me as somebody that's going to be like, I'm staying in this country no matter what. And I'm not either. So it's like, I would obviously leave at any first sign of trouble, to protect myself and my family. And I don't know, maybe Tucker would actually, maybe he means what he says, but he's not staying in his country. As soon as there's an actual sign of trouble, I'd imagine Tucker would probably leave. It's just kind of fluffy words. It's easy to say, hard to back up. The country's not in decay right now. I mean, maybe it's heading towards that way, but, it's not at that point quite yet. And hopefully will never be. But, I love this country. And it's like, I want to actually see it thrive and deliver on the American dream. And people that work hard can actually achieve, a good life here. That's what we come here for. So I don't know what Tucker's talking about living in two countries. I don't know. Can I live in two states? Can I live in Florida and New York at the same time? Can I, travel back and forth? Can I live in New York and Texas or California? Any of these places? Like a state is just a place to live. That's the same way I see a country. A lot of people need dual citizenship too because they have family in another country as well. Maybe they need to stay there for long periods of time, taking care of an elderly relative that's still there or something like that, from time to time. Dual citizenship, there's nothing wrong with that. I don't know what the heck Tucker's talking about. It's just sad. A country is not like this. I pledge you are my master country. I will do anything that you tell me. Look, I think if you're in the military, you probably take certain other pledges. I think during times of war, and there are drafts where you get forced to be in the military. I understand that more so, of like, you have to do whatever the military tells you in that circumstance, I guess. I don't know. But like, if you're just a regular citizen, I don't understand why you can't have dual citizenship. I just disagree with Tucker on his analysis of this. He's just wrong. It's just becomes this like kind of like romanticized, like hyper patriot thing. Like, I'm a patriot. I love America. And like, I love New York, and it's like, I want to actually see it working better for the middle class and our rights actually being protected more, where it seems like people like Tucker are moving in the opposite direction. I think, I think there's a big talk about like, oh, rights and whatever. And then, there's a different stand. Like there's rights that they want to focus on and amendments they want to focus on and amendments that they would like to ignore. So I think this video is getting kind of long. Overall, I don't know. Let's think about this for a second. Stories coming to mind. I remember when I went to the Beast. There's this speedboat in New York. It's called the Beast, and they take you to the Statue of Liberty, like Ellis Island. Not into it, but just they do the speedboat. They take you on a whole what's it called, ride, and then they show you like you go up to the Statue of Liberty just to see it for a little bit. And they're playing rock and roll, and it's a speedboat. It's a lot of fun. And the guy who's doing the speedboat, he's like pouring water on people. It's a ton. It's like a fun thing. And basically, it's so funny because we go to the Statue of Liberty, and I forget what it says on the Statue of Liberty, but it says like, "Give me your broken, give me your whatever," and this whole very inspiring quote that it has about the Statue of Liberty, and this beacon, right? This huge statue of the Lady Liberty. I'm getting chills right now even talking about it. It's so beautiful, and it's so like moving, and the symbol of freedom, the symbol of the right to liberty and free speech and the pursuit of happiness and your religion and all that stuff. All the rights that America promises and the American dream that's represented, where, immigrants coming to this country, escaping oppressive regimes that didn't allow them to celebrate their religion, that didn't allow them to own property, that didn't allow them to speak freely against the country and all of those things, right? Like, all that whole thing, the Statue of Liberty just represents all of the, the freedoms that America offers. And I find it so funny that like what we're doing is we're on a speedboat just playing rock and roll, like having fun. Like, what do we do with this freedom? You know, for all these people that came to this country with all the sacrifices that they made. Like, what are we doing with this freedom? We're just playing rock and roll. I don't know. I just find it like a funny story. It's kind of irrelevant to Tucker Carlson, but it's just an interesting point of like, what are we truly doing with our freedom? I'm not saying playing rock and roll and having fun is a bad thing. It's not, but whatever. It's a funny story. Anyways, guys, this will conclude the episode here. Let me know in the comments what you think of my analysis of Tucker Carlson, of all the things that I've been saying, if you agree or disagree. I'm very curious to hear from you, of course. Thank you for listening. Again, this has nothing to do with therapy. This is just me as a therapist thinking about how I see this stuff. So I hope you enjoyed it. It was it was enjoyable for me. So lots of fun. I'll be doing this again. Maybe picking on people on the other side of the political aisle. But I think, yeah, that'll conclude this for now. See you next time.